Okay, so the first thing I'm showing you here is my Gmail. And yours may look a little differently, and we'll go through all the different steps in order to change settings and so on and so forth. But looking into my Gmail, we have here, we're looking at my inbox. And by default, this little logo up here, Vernon Township School District, clicking on that will always get you back to your inbox. So if you are, going through a bunch of emails and you're in the, some of you may have your email set up as conversation view, and we'll talk about that as well, where your emails are stacking and you're neck deep up into emails. In order to always go back to square one, simply clicking here where it says Vernon Township School District will always get you back there. Taking a look, these are the labels that I have decided to show on the left-hand side, and we'll talk about that as well, the labels you choose to show as versus hide. I've got my inbox. I've got starred, anything that I star and I deem important, all of my sent mail, all of my drafts, and any of my trash. Keep in mind, Google trashes your trash can every 30 days. So you have 30 days to retrieve something if you should happen to delete it and then recognize later on down the road, oh, I need that email back. You've got 30 days to change your mind. Otherwise, they delete it for good. Everything that you see here underneath categories are labels that I've actually created myself. They're all listed here, and we'll go over creating those labels as well, any labels that you want. I know a lot of people had labels that were, or folders as they called them in Outlook, that were pulled over. And a lot of people weren't happy with the way that they came over because you may have 20 folders per se that say inbox / and something else. So we're going to actually go through changing the names of those as well if you want to change names of your labels. Underneath that, scrolling all the way down, there's always this option for more labels, and that's where spam is kept. So if a parent emails you and says, I emailed you, I didn't hear a response, chances are it was spammed. Check your spam folder, and 9 times out of 10, you can find it there. Okay. You also have the option down towards the bottom here for a chat feature, and you can decide whether or not you want to turn that on and off. As you know, all of the kids in the district, K to 12, have their own Google account. K to 7, by the way, they cannot send or receive emails from anyone out of the VTSD school district. However, those that are 8th through 12th grade can. None of the students, however, have the chat feature. So that is strictly for teachers, faculty, administration. And clicking on this down here gives you the ability to chat anyone that you'd like to chat in real time. And that actually works really well throughout the school day. You need to get a hold of someone, that can be done through that chat feature. Seeing that if there's a little green dot next to their name tells you that they're online at that time, and you would be able to message them and it would pop up on their computer that you're reaching out to them. There are some other features that we can add into your email as well, and we'll go through those a little bit later on. Taking a look at the emails. Each one of your emails comes in, and I have it set up in this manner where you have your option of setting it up comfortable, cozy, or compact. I like it comfortable. Okay, it just spreads everything out a little bit, gives it an easier feel for me, I think, as far as looking through each one of those emails. And that determines the feel, the look that you want to have with your email. Clicking on the left-hand side of each one of those emails brings up a wide variety of menu options. Once I've clicked on that email, you see that all of these different options pop up. I can decide to archive it, which all of that does is take that email out of my inbox and puts it in a folder called All Mail. And when you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see that I have this option down here, All Mail. So anything that I've saved, labeled, filed, or archived can be found in that folder. I have an option here that gives me report spam. So if you get something in your inbox that's spam, check mark it, click that exclamation point, and it will, for here on out in the future, filter it as spam and automatically put it in your spam folder. If you want to delete it altogether, just click the trash can. And I'm going to skip folders and labels for a second and move over to more. These are just some other options that you can add into the specific email or emails that you have checked, marking it as unread. You've read it, but you didn't read it closely enough, you want to go back to it later, maybe marking it as not important. That factors in later on if you decide to take the other Gmail course. They talk about setting up your email to basically determine which emails are important and not, and stack them in that manner. This is the thing that a lot of people get hung up on, is what is the difference between folders and labels? Because I know that Outlook didn't have labels. If you take one of your emails and you decide to stick it in a folder, what that does is pull it out of your inbox and put it directly into the folder that you choose. Now it can only go in one folder if you decide to file it. If you label it, it has the same exact titles as your folders, because that's what they are. Your labels and your folders are one and the same. But what it does is it keeps it in the inbox. So filing it gets rid of it from the inbox. Labeling it keeps it in the inbox. And that gives you the ability, you can see here, that I can actually take this one specific email and put it in maybe 4 different labels and click apply. Now you'll see here that it's taken this specific email and put it in each one of these different folders that I have listed on the left-hand side of my screen. Keeps it in the inbox as well. If you decide down the road you don't want to keep it in your inbox anymore, simply archive it. It will pull it out of your inbox, but it will remain in each one of these folders. If you decide that you want to take it out of any one of those folders, simply open up the email and X out every one of the labels that you had put on it, and now it will be back to square one. Okay, so that is basically the difference between labeling them versus filing them. Are there any questions with that? Okay, seems like we're okay with that. That's pretty much it as far as looking at it from the front screen. To search for a specific email, if you have an email and you're looking, someone has sent you an email, and if you remember one of the key terms, and/or you can just search the person's name in general. Typing the person's name, I'm going to search Janet. If I start typing her name and I click here, right now what that does is search every single email that had something to do with Janet DeCenzo. Be it either I sent her an email or she sent me an email, it's going to look, or even if we received an email in a group message and both of us were attached to that, it would bring that up. Okay, so anytime you're looking for something that seems to be lost, you filed it somewhere, you're not quite sure where it went, search either key terms or the person's name, and it will bring up all emails associated with that person or that term. Okay. Okay, the other thing that I wanted to show you is actually when composing emails. The good thing about Google is you can compose more than one email at a time, and it allows you to continue to look at emails here as you are composing your email in front. You have that option to do that here. And what's nice about Google is they automatically save your emails. So if you walk away from your computer and/or they accidentally get X'd out, they're not gone for good. They've been saved in your draft folder. Okay, and these are the two here that I had just opened up. They're now in the draft folder. I can bring them back up. Once I finish my email and send it out, it removes it from my draft folder. You'll see now that I only have 2 drafts, and it sent it to the recipient. Okay, so it's nice that it saves it for you, and then you'll always have that in order to access at a later time. Okay, other things on here when composing emails. What Google also does is it gives you the ability to attach items not only from your Google Drive, but it could also be from the computer itself. You've got this little option here as far as this word ribbon goes, or Google ribbon, giving you the ability to add in bulleted lists, numbered lists, bold print, size of your font, the font type. So you've got all these different options when composing your email, but you can also attach files, attach a file from your Google Drive, insert a photo, hyperlink any one of the words within your email, and or add in these little emoticons, which you've seen all of those. You can add in little smiley faces and things like that as well. Some people like to do that. Another little hidden feature when composing an email that not too many people are familiar with is when you click into the to field and click on the word to, it actually brings up your contact lists. Okay. And right now I don't have anybody in my contact lists, but what it also does is brings up a directory. And if you choose the directory, you now have a directory of every single student, group, and faculty member in the Vernon Township School District. So if you know that you're looking for someone and you're not quite sure exactly how to spell their name, or you want to make sure you've got the correct spelling, you could start typing their name. Looking up my daughter, and there she is. So I know, oh, okay, that is her email address. That's how you spell her last name. Simply clicking next to her name, choosing select, will now start composing that email to that specific user within the VTSD community. So again, it's a little hidden feature, clicking on the to, going to the directory, and as you can see here, here's a group for all VTSD admin, any groups for specific school groups as far as custodians, secretaries, any sort of groups like that as well are located within this directory. You can find them here and start searching for them. Okay. And that's a nice little feature as well. Okay, other things that I wanted to show you in regards to Gmail. We've got this settings tab over here underneath the cogwheel. And if we scroll about halfway down and go into settings, you're going to see that there's quite a bit of different options here when we get into Gmail settings. It probably has the most settings out of every one of Google's products between Drive and Calendar and everything else. This one has the most. General is basic information. This is where I was talking about before, though, with the conversation view. I have my conversation view turned off. And what that does is, if you are in a group message with, let's say, 4 other individuals, and everybody starts responding to you or back and forth, you're going to notice that your emails are stacking. And what I mean by that is it's one email that you're clicking on, but when you click on it, there could be 10, 20, 40 different emails going on within that stack. For me, I found it cumbersome to follow, so I turned it off. If that is something that you want to turn off, just go to the settings. You'll by default be in your general tab. Click the conversation view off and be sure at the bottom of the page to click Save Changes. And what that will do then, every time someone responds to you, it will actually create a new email within your inbox so that you have these individual sessions going on as opposed to this one long, lengthy stacked email. Other things that I feel are important in here, if you wanted to change your picture or add a picture in that's attached to your email, everything Google, it'll actually show up in the upper right-hand corner here. If you want to put a signature in so that every time that you compose and send an email, you don't have to put your signature in every single time. You can create that. I, by default, right now have no signature because I have a different program creating my signature. And if you're going to be out of district, this is actually, so if you have a professional day, a sick day, you can come in here under the General tab, turn your vacation responder on, set the days that you're going to be away, and then put your message in here. And then anytime someone emails you, they'll receive your away message. And again, anytime you make any changes in here, just be sure to save changes. Clicking on the next option, which is labels. And this is where I had said we would discuss how you can show and hide your labels, how you can add or delete labels, and rename those labels. Anything that you see in bold is what it is set to. So you can see here that I have right now, by default, your inbox will always be visible, but I have starred being shown. I have important hidden, so you don't see that up here. I have chats hidden, that's not up here. My sent mail is shown, my drafts are shown, and my trash is shown. That's why you see these options in the upper left-hand side of my email. So if you have any folders, labels, call them what you will, you can determine what you want to do. If you want them hidden, you can hide them. It doesn't delete anything. It just hides it from your list of labels, or you can make them visible if you choose to. What this is over here where it says show in message list is it actually gives you the ability to then categorize emails as you compose them. Again, that will be shown in the next level of Gmail, but for the purpose of today, we're going to focus on the one where it says show in label list. Okay. If you scroll when you're in under labels, about halfway down, you're going to see that you have a section called labels. These are all of the labels that you've either created or were pulled over from Outlook from last year. So if you go in and you decide that you want to go in and change anything the way that it's written, I know a lot of teachers had, like I said, labels that said inbox / and then whatever they were calling those individual folders. Let's say you want to go in and you want to change one. I'm going to change this one. Simply just click on whatever it is, change it, and click enter on your keyboard. And then what it does is it renames that label, and it will rename it over here as well. See, it no longer says Google Info, it says Google Information. So that's how you can go in and change. These are all of my labels that are shown. I can hide them if I want. I can set the parameters to only show if there's messages in there that are unread. And I can remove them altogether. If you have labels that were pulled over from Outlook or ones that you've created and you no longer want, just come in here under the labels feature, remove them all together, and then you don't have to worry about it anymore. They're completely deleted. But keep in mind, anything that was inside of that label will be or folder will be deleted as well. Okay, are there any questions so far on that? Okay, I think we're good. Please jump in at any time if you have any questions. I'll keep on going. Inbox just sets up the way that your inbox appears. I just keep mine as default. It seems pretty easy to follow. Accounts, basic accounts. It's just if you want to go in, you want to change your account settings. Let's say you want to change your password, so on and so forth. This can be done here. Filters, again, this is something that will be discussed in the next level. But if you're getting a lot of spam and you keep saying it's spam, or you've got someone that keeps emailing you consistently and you basically just don't want to receive those emails anymore, you can apply filters. And what filters do is tell that email to do something without you having to do it. So if you kept receiving an email from a certain business or whatnot, you could simply just set a filter that would, every time that specific email address went to attempt to send something into your inbox, you could set the filter to delete it so that you never have to look at it, mark it as read, perhaps file it in a specific folder. So that's what filters are. They allow you to basically set parameters for all of your mail. Forwarding, you could add a forwarding address if you're going to be away from your mail for any length of time. The chat feature that I showed you before down at the bottom of the page here, when you click on this little bubble icon, this little speech bubble, you can turn it off if you want. If you just don't want to use the chat or you don't want anybody to be reaching out to you through the chat feature, you can simply turn it off and then click Save Changes. Labs are kind of neat, but understand that they can break at any time, and that's the only problem here. Labs are, what's the best word to put them for? Like experimental. They are little gadgets that work with your Gmail, and Google Drive has them and your calendar has them. But these little gadgets sometimes just make life easier and they enhance your experience with that specific tool. I happen to use the Google Calendar gadget. And if you go to Labs and you look for Google Calendar gadget and simply just enable it, what it does is it actually puts my calendar now in the bottom left of my email. And I know a lot of people liked that last year with Outlook, the fact that their calendar and their email was integrated. You can now do that through this one specific lab. You simply just come in and enable, scroll to the bottom, save changes, and then you'll have these three little dots here that you click on, and anything that you have on your personal Google Calendar will now be available to you and viewable to you. And you can simply click on that and it will show every detail that you set in regards to that specific event. So I really like that lab. I think that's a good lab. But they're test features. So they're seeing how many people use them, how many people like them, and at any point in time they can be pulled. Offline, it just puts you offline. And finally, themes. This is where you can change any sort of theme background that you have as far as your Gmail goes. You can pick colors, you can pick certain textures, images. You can set custom themes, and what custom themes allow you to do is pull in your own picture. And that's where you see where I have this technology. When I remove this in the background, that was an image that I uploaded. I selected a background image and uploaded that picture of technology. So if you wanted to go in and play around, there's some classic themes down here, some fun themes, but you can go in and play around with the colors, and it will change the whole look and feel of your Gmail. Okay. And getting back to general, and then ultimately, like I said, anytime you want to get back to square one, your inbox, clicking on this Vernon Township School District icon gets you right back to your main screen. Okay. A couple of things I wanted to talk about real quick before we get into calendar is, and these are some helpful bits of information in regards to your doc log. I know we weren't, necessarily talking about doc log today, but I've had quite a few requests as far as how do I save an email? I have an email that perhaps it was an email that a parent sent me or my supervisor sent me, and raving up and down about how wonderful I did in that lesson, or what an impact I'm having on a child. And that's a really great email that you can save for your doc log. So what you would want to do is go into your inbox, and you're going to actually open up that email that you want to save. So you open up the email, and this actually is kind of funny that it works this way, but you're going to click on the printer icon. And when you click on the printer icon, you get this pop-up box, and you notice that your destination will be set to whatever printer you have to be set as the default. But if you click change, and you click Save to Google Drive, now you no longer have the ability to print the email, but you have the ability to save it. So what it does when clicking Save is it takes that email and it now saves it to your Google Drive. So there's no need to print it out, scan it, send it back to you don't have to do any of that anymore. What it does is just automatically then go to your Google Drive. And I'm going to scroll down, and you can see there it is now at the bottom of my Google Drive. Okay. And it says Vernon Township School District Mail, and then the subject. And if you wanted to at any point in time rename that when you're in your Google Drive, just click on it, click rename, and say okay. And now you have that email that was sent to you in your Google Drive, and it can later be pulled into your doc log. Okay, so that's one thing I wanted to show you in email as far as saving emails that are of importance that you want to eventually pull into your doc log. Another thing you might see that I've done here, if I've starred certain emails, that's just for my reference tonight. But starring emails basically just sets them as high importance. So anytime you come over here to starred, it brings up any email that you ever starred. And it's just a quick, easy way to get to those important emails, regardless of where you filed them or labeled them. The other thing that I wanted to show you was how to download an attachment from your email into your Google Drive also. I'm going to open up an attendance list that was sent from Jackie over at Glen Meadow. And this is just an example to show you what your options are when you open up an attachment in your email. If you hover over the top of the attachment and click on it, it will give you view-only rights to the actual document. So I can open up the document and I can read what is written on that document. I can't edit it. I'm not saving it. It's just a way to view it. If I hover over this down arrow, what that will do, and you see it says download, that will download. If I click on that, it will download it anywhere that I tell it to go. So if you wanted to download it to your H drive, if you wanted to download it to your desktop, that would be the option that you would choose for that. If you wanted to download it to your Google Drive, simply clicking on Save to Drive opens up your Google Drive, and then you can decide which folder. I'm just going to pick anyone. I'll just pick YouTube since it's at the bottom, and I can say move it. And what it does now, it now takes that specific email and puts it in the folder that I told it to go to. So again, if you're scanning things to yourselves for your doc log and they're automatically going into your email, that's a quick, easy way to be able to save it into your Google Drive to later pull it into your doc log. And this final feature over here with this little pencil, what that will do is allow me to open it up in my Google Docs, which is in my Google Drive, edit it, and it will then automatically be saved there as well. So these are just 3 little options that they give you every time you won't always see the edit. That's only if the person has given you editing privileges, but the other 2 will always be there, the download arrow and the Google Drive icon. And you can see now that it's colored in, showing you that I've downloaded it to my Google Drive. Okay, so those are 2 things that I just wanted to go over just to show you in case those were some questions that you had in regards to downloading to your Google Drive from your email. All right, if there are any questions about Gmail, please feel free to ask them now. I'm glad that you guys are finding this pretty cool. I think Gmail has a lot of great features, and it takes a little getting used to at first, but they certainly integrate everything really nicely when it comes to Google Drive and your calendar and your mail and everything else. There's a lot of really cool features in here that, once we get used to them, they try to make it pretty seamless. Okay, if there are no questions with that, I'm actually going to switch over now to the Google Calendar. This is just and it's probably looking, a lot different than perhaps other calendars that you've seen. But I'm showing you here my calendar. And, I have everything color coded and things like that. So yours may not look necessarily like this. But, Google Calendar is a way to keep everything organized in regards to perhaps you have upcoming meetings with parents, students, supervisors, anything after school, workshops. You can see I have tonight's workshop up here. This is where you can store all of that. And if you're unsure how to get to your calendar, anytime you're in your Gmail and you click on, you have one of 2 options. I have my tabs pulled over to a second screen right now that I'm on my computer, but anytime you go to your apps option on your browser, you'll sometimes see them up in the upper left-hand side as well, the 9 colored squares. Or you may have, I know for a lot of the teachers, they've downloaded the app launcher at the bottom of their screen, and you would see those 9 colored squares as well, and calendar would be one of those options. And that gets you into your Google Calendar. By default, it will generally bring you to your specific calendar, but any other calendars that you've accepted through email, when someone wants to add you to a specific calendar, and for those of you that are in the schools that have these sign-up calendars for the computer labs, you would have received emails asking you to accept those calendars. Those calendars were then placed here under Other Calendars. And if yours looks like this right now, simply clicking this left arrow, this triangle, will give you a drop-down of all the calendars that you've accepted. Okay, so you can see that I have all the different calendars for the high school, Glen Meadow, so on and so forth. But if you've accepted any other calendars, they would be there as well. My calendar is at the very top. Yours will be as well underneath my calendars. And again, if it looks like this, just click the arrow and you will see your calendar at the very top. Some people get into their calendars and they see something that looks like this, and it will make you crazy. It's definitely too much to look at one given time. What happened here is the calendars have all overlapped themselves because I have more than one calendar selected. You can certainly deselect them, or if you've got so many that seem to be overlapping and opened all at the same time and you just want to see your own calendar, hover over, click the drop down and say display only this calendar. And what it does is bring you back to square one. It brings you back to your specific calendar that that you're basically setting it to bring you back to. You can do that with any one of these calendars, but if you want to get back to yours, that's the quickest, easiest way to erase all the others and get back into yours. Okay. If you wish to see specific events, like I said, simply just click on the ones down here. And you can also add in coworkers' calendars. It will not show you exactly what they're doing, but it will let you know if they're busy or available. So if I wanted to look for Matt Shea's calendar, I would simply just type his name and his name would pop up. And now I can see, because I've set this color to pink, you can set it to any color that you wish, that Matt's availability would be now noted on my calendar, because I can see all of the pink spots where he will be busy, letting me know that anything that's open. So a lot of times this is really good as well if you're planning, you want to plan with some other teachers, you want to perhaps set a meeting up with a tech coach, or you want to set a meeting up with a supervisor. Simply just adding their calendar and then clicking on it will show you if they're busy or they're free. It will never show you again what they're doing, just whether or not they're available. And the same holds true for you. Anybody can look for your calendar as well and see if you're available or busy. So that's something else that you're able to do in doing that as well. In the upper portion of the calendar, you'll notice that you have multiple views. You can simply just do a one-day view. You can do the whole week, which is what I tend to use. You can look over an entire month, 4 days, or you can do it in agenda form. I happen to like it in week form, but it's all a matter of preference, whatever works best for you. You can also print your calendar, or if you've added in some different events and it doesn't seem to want to refresh, you can simply refresh the page and it would refresh all those added in events. Okay. Other things that I wanted to show you here as well, as far as searching goes. Just like we search Gmail, you can search the calendar as well. So if you wanted to search a specific person, I remember we met and we talked about this, but I don't remember the date. Simply typing the person's name will then give you every single date that you've ever met with that person. So if I'm going to look up, let's see. Okay, spelled it wrong. Okay, what that does is show me every time that I had a meeting with Sandy Friedhoff, where we met, the duration of the meeting. So that's another way to just go and find out if, like I said, if you had a meeting and you need to quickly recall the date and time of that meeting, simply search the person's name at the top of the screen, and then you'll be able to bring up those different times and dates. Okay. The other thing that's definitely of importance to show you here is adding an event. It's really, I think the easiest way to add in an event is to simply just click on the day that you want to add an event, and then I'll show you exactly what I do. Let's say I wanted to add an event for Friday, January 16th, and I want it to be for 12 p.m. Don't feel like you have to click right at 12 p.m. For whatever reason, I always tend just to click at the top so I don't accidentally click on one of my other events. You can click anywhere at the top. And I don't fill any of this in. I go right to Edit Event. And once you click on Edit Event, it brings up the form that you're going to fill out as far as the event goes. So let's say I'm just going to call this a test event. And I'm going to make it and this is where you can change the time. By default, it's going to want to give you 1 hour's worth of time. But you can change this to right on down to the specific minute. So let's say it was going to be from 12 to 1:13 p.m. I can do that. If it was going to be an all-day event, I can set that. If this is something that's going to repeat itself for the next 2 weeks, 10 weeks, rest of the school year, you can click repeat and set those parameters as well. You can set the location. Let's say this is just going to be in room 213. You can set a description. Meet with teachers. You can color code it. So if there's a certain color that you want to stand out on your calendar, choose any one of the colors that you like. I'll just choose yellow for now. You have the option to set notifications, which is really, really nice. And you can set as many as you want or none at all. you have the ability to set up a pop-up or an email. Keep in mind the pop-ups will pop up on your screen when you have your calendar launched, and wherever you are, you could be presenting a PowerPoint presentation to your class. That pop-up is going to overtake the what you're doing at that point in time on your screen, because it wants to remind you that in 30 minutes you have this specific meeting. I'm going to show you another lab like I showed you before in regards to the setting your calendar up with your email. There's one called gentle notifications, and what that does is it does not interrupt what you're doing, but instead a box, a rectangle pops up in the upper right hand side of your screen, and it actually just gives you a little gentle reminder that you have an upcoming meeting. You can set it to be a pop-up or an email. You can set it for minutes, hours, days, or weeks in advance. And like I said, you could set more than one. You could set 10 if you wanted to. So it's entirely up to you how many notifications you need for that specific event, and they will stick to this specific event. By default, I believe every event will be set to give you a pop-up 30 minutes before. But if you want to add more or change the one that's there, this would be the way to do it. Finally, if you wanted to add others to this event, so anytime I meet with a teacher, I send them a calendar invitation. So what happens is not only is it on my calendar, but it's on that teacher's calendar as well. And they receive an invitation. So let's say I wanted to send an event to Matt Shea and tell him that, we're having this event at this, on this date at this time. And I've added it here that Matt will be one of the guests. I have the option to allow my guests to see the guest list or not, invite other guests or not, or modify the event or not. A lot of times, if it's just a specific meeting with a teacher, or if you want to set a specific meeting with a teacher, or a supervisor or what have you, a lot of times I just uncheck invite others, and that specific person will receive an email, and it will also be on their Google Calendar, the event that I've created. When I go to save this event, it asks me, do I want to send an invitation to the guest? So you have your option. If you don't send them an invitation, they'll still see it, but they won't be alerted of it. So I always, by default, send them an invitation. So I would just click send, and then what would happen is Matt would receive an email that says, Jackie has invited you to this event. What would you like to do as far as to respond? And that would look something like this. You may have seen emails that look like this when you've received some sort of event that was sent to you, and you've got the option of yes, maybe, or no. This is how you respond. And when you do respond, what it does is it actually, I'm going to discard this, it will show you, who has responded. Check marks mean that yes, they are coming. Question mark means they're unsure at the moment. If nothing is there, they haven't had a chance to respond yet. And you would see, a circle with a line through it that denotes that they're unable to attend. So it's definitely a good way, too, to keep a running list as far as who's attending your meeting, who's able to make it, and who's not. Those that can or cannot attend your meeting are able to also give you a little note. And that little note will show up underneath their name in this section here underneath guests. Okay, so that's just showing you a little bit as far as what it looks like on that end when people start responding to your event. Okay, so yeah, simply just creating event. I would click anywhere on that specific day, click edit event, and begin filling in the information here as far as what you want to set forth in regards to that specific event. If you decide, let's say we have a snow day, you want to go in and change those events to a week later, you can just simply come in, click the next date that you'd like to change it to, click save, and what it does then, notify those people again that you've changed the date of that event. Anytime you make any changes on that event, it will ask you, do you want to let the guests know? And you have that option, yes or no. Okay. That's pretty much it as far as the calendar goes. The other thing that I wanted to show you here is the settings. There's not as many as Gmail. Gmail has quite a few, but this is basically what Google does. All of their settings are normally hidden underneath this cogwheel. And in clicking on that cogwheel and going to settings, you see that we have 4 different tabs that are available underneath calendar settings. By default, calendar settings, everything that you have here, I would say for the most part would pretty much remain standard, as far as your country, your language, your current time zone, your date format. And you could take a look at this and see if there's anything that you'd want to change. I like to dim past events. So once an event has taken place, it kind of fades the color of the event. I've chosen to show weekends. You may choose not to. And as far as different default views, so on and so forth, you can perhaps choose to show the weather if you want the weather, just different things that you have here available to you. Any changes that you make, please be sure to click Save at the bottom of the page. Underneath calendars. Now what this does is it shows you the calendars at the top of the page that you have to, accept. So if you're a member of, you've gone into Google Plus and again, that's a whole other different workshop, but if you have people in your Google circles, you automatically have a calendar called birthdays. And you can see there's nothing that I can do to this calendar over here, but I have my calendar and you'll see that that's shown in the list. And I created one just for the IT department, our birthdays. So then I have the option to show that in my calendar list or not. Down at the bottom, these are all of the calendars that you've either been asked to be a part of and or coworkers' calendars that you've added. If you decide that you want to keep this calendar for future reference, but you don't necessarily want it on your calendar page, just unclick it. It won't delete it, but what it will do is remove it from your list of calendars on your main calendar page. If you want to, let's say you've looked at a few different coworkers' calendars, you were putting a meeting together, and it's, well, the chances are that I'll need to look at those again. It might be a while, or I just don't want them there anymore. You can just go to that person's name and click unsubscribe. It asks you, are you sure you want to unsubscribe? Unsubscribe, and now you notice that Matt's calendar is no longer available to me underneath calendars. Now I can go back in like I did before and add him again, but as of now, it's now been removed from my list of calendars. Mobile setup. You can actually, if you have a smartphone, set up your specific school Gmail calendar to be accessed through your Google your calendar app on your phone. But what this does here is, if you want to, and I don't have it set up this way, you can set up your notifications to text you as well. So if you have different events coming up and you want to receive a text, you can do that. Or if you just set the calendar up on your smartphone, it will pop up right up on your main screen anytime that you have an upcoming event. And finally, labs. Labs are actually, like I said, they're those experimental features that could be lost at any time, but this is the one that I was talking about here, gentle notifications. And as I stated before, a lot of times you could be in the middle of doing something with your class, and if you've set one of those event notifications to pop up a half hour before, it takes you out of what you're doing to show you that event. Setting and enabling gentle notifications will no longer do that. You'll get a nice little gentle pop-up that comes up in the upper right-hand side of your screen that just reminds you that you have this specific event coming up in a half hour, 10 minutes, whatever you set it for. So if you decide that there are some labs here that you would like to add, just click Enable. This is another one that I chose, Hide Morning and Night. And basically what I did is I was able to condense my calendar, and I'll show you that from 9 p.m. until I believe I have it set for 6 a.m. You don't see those spaces on my calendar. I've kind of compressed them so that it takes up less space on my calendar, and the time frames that I do need have more space. So again, it's up to you. If you wanted to use that, you could use that, but the gentle notifications is definitely a good one. There's others here as well if you wanted to, take a look. As you saw, calendars didn't offer a year view, but this might be a lab that you want. You can enable it, and now you can see your calendar across an entire year. If there's any changes that you've made, click Save, and then you'll see those changes reload onto your calendar. At any point in time, if you've enabled something and you decide you don't like it, just come back in here and disable, click save, and it will remove it from your Google Calendar. Okay, so I'm going to get back into my calendar. Again, clicking here will get me back to square one. I'm going to get rid of this one, and you can see now that I'm in my specific calendar. Okay, and that's what that offers you there as well. So this was just basically an introduction to show you what Gmail can do. You know, we went through everything over here as far as your Gmail account and what your Google Calendar can do. If there are any questions, please feel free to ask them now. If there's anything you want me to go over again, I would be more than happy to. I actually created a tip sheet of everything that I just discussed with you, and I'm going to be sending that out right now. Here we are. I've got everybody preloaded here, and everything that we discussed step by step, you'll now have shared with you into your school email account. And you'll be able to save that, as I showed you before, into your Google Drive. And then you'll have that as a point of reference if you have any questions, or if I went over anything that you're not quite sure about, you'll be able to go through those steps in that handout.